Hi, welcome. My name is Ian Soars. I'm Chief Executive of Vegans, a charity that cares for vulnerable children. We do counselling with 400 or 500 children every week in school, and we also do parenting interventions, just working with parents who are going through a challenging time, as in fact every parent in the UK right now is going through a challenging time. And today I wanted to share a few insights perhaps about how to manage the situation we're in now, that this new third lockdown. How do we do that with our kids are at home? I've got 3 teenage daughters. One just skipped her GCSEs last year, is in first year of A-levels. The other 2 are in year 9, and so building towards GCSEs. Everything is essential, everything's important, everything is urgent, and there's obviously a lot of anxiety. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with perhaps anxiety in our own lives? But I'm joined by Sarah Wallace, who will introduce herself, but what she won't say is she's head of delivery for Vegans, and oversees most of our therapists, about a dozen of our contracts, our cluster work, GP surgeries where we supply counselling into GPs, and in all of our vulnerable children's counselling and our parenting team as well. So Sarah, did you want to give a personal introduction?
Yeah. Hi. So I'm Sarah, and I am quite busy at work, but I also have got 3 children, or 3 teenagers really now, in years 7, 9 and 12, and so I come to you today amongst Zooming that's happening all around, and whilst we're trying to do online school as well as everything else, so I feel everybody's pain.
So to begin with, and by way of apology, both of us have children who are Zooming right now and are walking in and out, and I've been promoted to the kitchen table from my office. So we genuinely do feel that pain, and so you may well see children come in, and we felt that was good. It'll give you some of the, so you can see it's all real for us as well as we continue. So I wanted to start with a couple of questions, if that's okay with you. How good is good enough?
Well, I think lots of parents at the moment are very painfully aware that we are not teachers. We just aren't, we send our children to schools for a reason, and that is to be around professional people who have been trained for many years and experienced in working with teenagers, particularly, or any children. And so I think we have to, in order to not drive ourselves mad, be aware of our own limitations, and that is okay. If we've, the way that children learn now, particularly with the things like the maths, is so different from how it was when we were taught it. But really, I have no concept of pretty much any of the maths that is happening in our house now. And so I think that's okay. We just have to use the, do what we can. And I think that the main support that we can do for our children is to support them as people, rather than try and make ourselves teachers, because I think preserving our sort of relationships with our children, and being as encouraging as we can of them as people is our best sort of line of support at the moment. And if we can help them with any of their work, that's all to the good. But I think we have to let ourselves off the hook and understand that we aren't teachers ourselves.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of us as parents, we've got this impression that we're the ones that are failing, and that somehow all the other parents are doing amazingly well. So I think it's quite helpful for all of us to see a head of parenting and a head of a children's mental health charity, both reasonably good educational backgrounds, going, we can't do it. And if we're okay to own up with that publicly, I think everybody should take comfort. However you think everybody else is doing, they're all struggling. And as you said, we're not educators, and to claim that we are will be belittling the incredible profession that teachers do. Our job is to care for. I absolutely agree on that.
I think as well, I think we have to be aware that although we've had lockdowns before, and this is not the first time we are doing school education, this time it is different because we've got the memories of the stress of it last time, and also this has been dropped on us, very quickly. There's not been any time to kind of really get your head around it at all. And so, certainly in our house, there was a lot of angst yesterday because we were still trying to get to grips with the online the way the school works online, you know, where the emails are, where the Google Classroom is and all of that. And so, you know, we are trying to react very quickly to a situation that has suddenly cropped up on top of everything else that's happening at the moment. So, you know, give yourselves a break, I think.
Yeah, you had an unusual solution. So one of your children was having a lot of difficulties with the tech that you were just mentioning. Do you want to share how you fixed it?
Yes, yes. So yesterday there was tears and shouting in our house because of the just trying to get to grips with how the school communicates via 3 different platforms. But luckily I have got an older one who does understand all of that. So thankfully, when I was losing my kind of like rag with the whole thing, she was able to support my youngest one on to ensure that her email was up and running, and that she was aware of what was happening. So I think using other people is your way forward. So if you've got older siblings, and equally with the other sort of thing I think is there are other people like grandparents, for example, who might not be able to necessarily help with the tech, but they might be the best people to have on hand to do some reading, or to, you know, read through some work or do anything like that. I think I'm a great advocate of that. You know, use who you can, especially if you're trying to work as well. Then, you know, delegate, you know, reading through and correcting spellings to you know, a grandparent that might be just really tough to actually hear and see on a what's the word I'm looking for, a WhatsApp video call to go through some work with somebody.
Yeah, and in fact, on that, because there's anxiety for us, because you just picked up on the fact that many of us are working, and so I think there needs to be a realistic assessment of, I mean, not all of us can tell our employers, I'm struggling here, and we get that, but there needs to be a realistic assessment, at least inside the house. Kids, this is what I can do. Kids, this is what I can't do. So, for example, if they're, you know, if you can't do the maths, we can't do the maths, and that needs to be just really clear. And then the children know at least which ones to really focus on with their teachers, if they got that kind of access online. But if there's stuff that we can do, we can step in, we can support them on an essay, then that's the bit we can do, or grandparents can do. So just taking some of the anxiety away by instead of it being an amorphous mass, saying, okay, this is okay, can't do that. I can work at 10 to 12, can't work between 12 and 4. And obviously, as I'm about to experience, I'm sure over the next few minutes, children pay no attention to that whatsoever. But at least if you've got the boundaries, there's an expectation and an understanding that it may not be you're there on tap. And I think most of us are struggling because we're trying to do both literally at the same time. Whereas that's not, we're just not finding that possible in our household.
We usually start the day with the kind of working out who's doing what today, who's, because the children should be, or certainly in our house, the schools are expecting that they stick to their timetable and they basically do their lessons when they should be doing their lessons. So it's useful, I think, to spend, breakfast time maybe going through that. And within that, you can say, please don't come and bother me between, 12 and 1, because I will be on a Zoom call for work then. You can try. And I think, and also then everybody's aware of what everybody else is trying to do a bit.
Yeah, I just, and on that, one of my children opened up their Google inbox or whatever, and honestly, I don't even know. They opened it up and there were like 9 homeworks. And I looked at this, I was going, it's not possible. It's just not possible. And children just looking at that will just not do any of the 9. That's their instinct, is to run. And one of the things that I found, particularly with my oldest in year 1 of her A-levels, what she found really helpful was me saying, okay, she's there's so much to do. I've got all these modules. Okay, stop. How many modules in this subject? How many modules you got in that subject? Okay, do these 3 at this time. Okay, do that at this time. And really broke it down, bit by bit. And, and actually, when they got bite-sized chunks, to be spread over a few days, then at the end of the day, they think, I achieved, my mountain is just that bit smaller. And I think, that we found that really helpful, rather than say, have you done all the 9 yet? To say, well, okay, these three you can't get to, these three are critical, let's do these three, and do that one today, that one this evening, and we'll do that one together when I've got maybe some time over lunch tomorrow. Have you done anything similar to that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think also, I think we've just actually had a power cut. Anyway, the other things that we've been doing as well are maintaining things like the lunch, the school day, maintaining the break time and the lunch time, and you know, feeding them at the time that they would normally eat, and also making time that I'm having my lunch break with them at that time, so that it actually does feel that everything, you know, tools are down and they've got a bit of time to you know, to really think again at the same time.
Good. The other thing, in fact, just on food, we've kind of put a big effort into food in the evening, where we're trying to do quite. Last night we made homemade chicken goujons, and it's not like we're trying to show off about this food we eat and Facebook everything. We're not. It's not about that. It's about actually giving the kids something to look forward to during the day. What causes anxiety is I don't know. You know, I don't know how this day is going to go. I don't know how my exams are going to go. I don't know what my friends are thinking of me. The more unknowns we can take off the table, the more knowns we can put in front of our kids and ourselves, it becomes easier. So, you know, planning the food for the evening, it just takes one unknown off for us. You know, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You know, it gets to 8 o'clock and think, I haven't fed my kids, I'm awful. And just a bit of planning, it takes that off. But it also gives everyone something fun to kind of talk about and look forward to, and you know, and we've started lighting candles in the evening and just getting around the table. And I mean, you know, you could say, oh, how hoity-toity, but I don't think so. I think it's about saying we need peace, and this is good. And also, actually, the children are helping us cook, not because we're making them, but we're trying to just get them, trying to make a break between school and home.
I think, you know, and I find this from a work perspective as well, is having my stuff put away, you know, having a definite time when you put the laptop down, when they put their books away for the day, so that it is the end of the school day, is really, really, really helpful to kind of have that definition between when you should be working and when you shouldn't be. And I think the whole kind of just doing one day at a time, I think, is the only way really that we can motivate the children, particularly when they have had their schooling so disrupted. You know, for example, all the people now who thought they were revising for their GCSEs and now aren't. I think they have to just try and take it one day at a time and have a kind of vague idea of the bigger picture, that being that at some point this will all end and normal life will start, and they will need to still have their A-levels, and they will still need to have a plan of what they want to do with their lives, whatever that is. But you kind of, at the moment, it's so hard to think about that because it all just feels so difficult. I think just concentrating on what we can do in the next day, and rather than thinking, well, in 3 months' time, there's no point, you know, because of we don't know what's going to happen, or I think everybody does need to just carry on one day at a time, and if that means you've got work to do, then you have to do that for that day. But it is really hard when they've been so sort of disappointed and angry, really, that all that they've been working towards has just been taken away from them. But you know, there will be a time when it you know, they can be thinking about their job that they want to do, or their career, or the university, or whatever it is. But sort of somehow focusing on that at the moment just feels a bit unmanageable, I think. So
can be very
one day at a time is the only way forward.
And celebrating a day, you know, when your kids get through and they've actually done the 3 modules, instead of saying, well, that's what you're supposed to do that. Sure, that's what they're supposed to do. They're saying, well done, well done. You know, I'm impressed, you're self-motivated, you've done it, you know, da-da-da-da. I said to my one of my kids the other day, I'm just the starter motor, you're the engine. I mean, I'm just a little bit, you know, you know, I get you going, but you're just so good when you're going. And whether that's true or not, it's not the point. The point is, she goes, yes, I can keep going once they've got started. And it's really, it's about endorsing it when they get it right, even if they get it right a bit. If you catch your kids doing schoolwork, even if they're supposed to be, that's not the point. We love being recognized for when we get something right. I mean, I do. I love it when someone says, you're a great dad. Well, that's my job. Of course I'm supposed to be a great dad. But, okay, it doesn't happen every day. But the point is, we need to do the same for our kids. Recognize when they get it right, and every day just go, hey, well done, everybody, well done. And by the way, picking up on your work point there, When I've had enough, or I get to 5 o'clock, we run a very complex organization together. We stop communicating. We have to focus on our families. And even though our world in 140 schools has just upended, and even though we've got 60 therapists going, what do we do? What do we do? Yes, we do that. We give it our heart and soul during the day, Sarah, but truthfully, we get to our families, then our families come first. And then, and our kids need to know that. And they watch for it. So the phones, would you agree? They go off.
Yeah, definitely. I think going into this lockdown, it is different, and in some ways it is harder. And I think the kind of all the kind of standard information about doing things in a short burst, making sure that you have access to, some physical movement, and getting out of the house. I know we can only do that once a day now, but just even if it's just stepping outside and breathing some fresh air, that is much harder this time, because it is cold and it is wet and it is damp and it's dark and it's miserable. All of which, when we were in the first lockdown, it was glorious weather, and somehow that does make a difference. So I think it is even more imperative at this time that we do try really hard to get ourselves and the children out for some sort of exercise. I think
absolutely. I'm doing it every day with one of my kids.
But it is harder.
It is harder.
My Fitbit is telling me that I'm not doing very good at that at the moment. So we do, but somehow we need to find ourselves. And if that means, even if you haven't got a garden or you're outside, I think anything that we can do that is moving and physically, even if it's just star dumps in the hall, has got to be. It just gets us going again and sort of resets us. So I think as much as we can, we need to do that, however cold and miserable it is.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to controversially, I think, put a word out for dads who may be watching this, or mums who are saying, where's dad in all this? I think, anecdotally, in a lot of the feedback that we're getting in, that if you read the newspapers as well, we're seeing that this lockdown, the last lockdown and this lockdown, impacted on women, working mums particularly, harder than it did men. And as one study said, we've gone back 15 years in terms of sharing of duties and so on like that. And I think it's important that men step up to the plate. Education isn't women's work. That we get behind our partners and our wives and or ex-partners and ex-wives, and we stand with them in what they're doing. We endorse them in what they're doing, and we take part, and we carry an equal part of this burden. Whether it's household duties or food that needs to be cooked or kids that need to be, looked after in terms of, it's not always possible. Men, I get that you're not often in the house, or you may be away on work, or you may be, out working 60 hours. I'm not trying to put a burden on us, but what I am trying to say is the start point is you should be doing it. And then if you're not, you need to think about why are you not? And if there's a legitimate reason, great. But I don't mean to be controversial on this, but it's right that actually women don't pick this up in the same volumes that they did in the last lockdown. I didn't mean to really land on that one, but I
think it is really helpful at the moment for when you're isolated in a way that we are at the moment, to feel like a team as much as you can, and whether that is a team with mum and 3 children, or whether it is mum and dad and 1 child, whatever that is, your team family team, is having a sense of that is really important at the moment, I think.
So I'm just going to run down some of the things that we said, just so people going, I tuned out, when that bloke kept speaking, but here's a kind of a list, I think. The first one is be realistic with yourself. Let yourself off the hook. Good enough is good enough. No one else is acing it out there. Very few people are nailing it. We're not educators. Good enough is good enough. Support your kids to do your school. Use your tech kids to help others and access grandparents. So you don't have one kid who's good at tech and one not. But that whole point that Sarah just said about being team, that actually as a family, whether both parents are there or not, that you're working together as a team. Focus on the core stuff. What's really critical, what's really important. And then fourthly, when your children are overwhelmed by the volume of work, what you can do, but they can't do perhaps, is help prioritize. Do this, do this, do this. That one might have to slide or wait for another day. And that breaking down might seem obvious to you, but it is not obvious to a child. It just seems like a big dark cloud. So breaking it down is really helpful. keeping the routines going that they would normally have, whether that's play or that's a difficult one, I know, but we're doing our best. Whether it's play or food, Sarah's pointing out, really good, because their body clocks are tuned to that, and to keep that going, and trying to have those fun family times. So I think we're about 7 points here. Those fun family times in the evening where the phones go off, you engage with each other, and that actually, as a summary of all of it, as we get to the end of the day, we endorse our kids. That's my dog. We endorse our kids for getting it right, but we also, metaphorically or otherwise, crack open the bottle of Pinot Grigio and endorse ourselves and say, actually, today we did good, got through another day. That's absolutely outstanding. And then begin to brace ourselves for the next day to come. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that, Sarah, before?
Yeah, I think just do one day at a time. And I think being honest with the children, really, so honest about what's happening and what we know is happening. And I think, limiting the amount of access to news, but keeping them as informed as they need to be, I think is important, because it can be overwhelming when we hear awful statistics. But having said that, especially if they're older, they need to know within their own understanding of what is going on. And I think just be kind to ourselves. That is the key thing.
Let's be kind.
And I think as well, if you really are struggling, then find somebody to talk to. Don't struggle on your own. Either find a friend or a relative, or contact somebody like us. There is help out there, and even if it's just to have a kind of a ranting moment and to let it all out, then do that. Don't bottle it all up.
That's right. So check out our website, vegans.org.uk. There's an animated series, really easy, really accessible, probably covering a lot of this, called Parenting in a Pandemic, which we released last time out. But who knew it was going to happen again? And here we are. So, but all of that resource is free, and it's just with our blessing to you and parenting tips and insights, and a bit about how the brain's working, how kids think and emotions. And if you need more than that, as Sarah said, just contact us. You can see all the email addresses and stuff on our website, www.vegans.org.uk, vegans.org.uk. And so from Sarah and myself, thank you for your time. I hope it's been helpful. Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.